Hello, good evening. It is 5 o'clock p.m. on July 24th. This is the regular trustee meeting for the Beavercreek Township. If you would all join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. We have an agenda. Are there any changes or corrections?
Yep.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda. We've got two different dates here. For the July 24th meeting as presented.
Second.
And excuse Trustee Wallace preferably.
And excuse Ms. Wallace.
Second.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Make a motion to accept the general ledger report in the amount of $348,370.52 for the July 12th, 2023 payroll as presented.
Second.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Make a motion to accept the payment listing report in the amount of $318,553.51 for warrants through July 20th, 2023 as presented.
Second.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the July 6, 2023 special trustee meeting and the July 10th, 2023 regular trustee meeting as presented.
Second.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes. Okay. This is the time in our meeting where we provide citizens the opportunity to bring anything they'd like to tell us. If there's anyone in the audience that'd like to tell us anything, you have 3 minutes. All right, seeing none, we'll move on. I will turn it over to Mr. Rushing. There's no old business or new business, so.
Yes, thank you, Board. We'll begin with our Human Resources Department. Ms. Gustafson is on. She has a request to approve the 2024 group retrospect rating for BWC. But to begin, she's going to introduce a guest speaker from Sedgwick who represents us in this matter.
Good evening, Board.
Hello.
Hi, Bruce Preston to discuss our group retrospective rating enrollment for 2024. And Bruce, could you just introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about our great discount that we're going to be getting this year?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I'm Bruce Preston, and I am an account executive with Sedgwick. I've coming up on my 25th year of doing this, so I've been at it for a little bit, and I've had the pleasure of working with Trish and with the township for quite a while now. And I want to take a moment really and just point out that it really is a pleasure to work with Trish. She does a terrific job. It gets information to us quickly so that we can help to get the proper claims allowed, and should anything need a closer look, she certainly helps us get that taken care of as well. So you guys are in great hands with her, but I'm sure you know that already. The Group Retro program that we're talking about is a rating program that you've participated in for a number of years now. It's a good alternative for policies that aren't able to be placed into a group rating program. And though they sound similar, they're a little bit different. In group retrospective rating, you're pooled through the Township Association with other townships. We look at their histories to make sure that they'd be a good fit for the program and make sure that they've got a good commitment to safety. And then injuries that will occur in the future, in this case we're talking about 2024 calendar year, are then reviewed at 3 future points by the state of Ohio in 2025, 2026, and 2027. And when they look at those costs, they develop them and then compare that to the premium that everybody paid to cover the year. And as long as the costs are below the premium, the township gets a rebate back based on that performance. And over the history of the program, it's provided rebates to you as high as 40% and as low as 20%. So it really just depends on the injuries and what the costs are at those survey dates. some things have been happening with the state level that make it a little more difficult to get in that 40% range. On the good news side, they're collecting lower premiums. So they're charging a little bit lower rate. And as a result, they're providing some credits. As a result, you're paying less premium, and that's good. But they've also instituted a new reserving system that actually makes the claims costs a little bit higher. So one thing we've done at Sedgwick is to create a cost containment unit that focuses in area of cost mitigation. So this doesn't affect the injured employee at all or their provider, but it's an after cost thing that we can try to do to help you out a little bit. Settlement of claim, filing for a handicap reduction or a motor vehicle surplus reduction. And we do that for everybody in the program so that we can maximize on the discounts for you. The good news is, without this program ever even happening, you're at a 7% discount. So that means that your claims costs are 7% lower than the state expected them to be. And as a result, they've lowered your premium before you even get into the program. And then hopefully we do a really good job managing it and we get closer to that 40% rebate range for you. I'll also say, looking ahead, the state, when they set your premium rates, it's kind of like your car insurance. When something happens, it affects you for a couple of years, and then it drops off and doesn't affect you anymore. There were some costly claims in 2018 that are currently affecting you, but this is the last year they're going to affect you. And I took a quick look, and there are very low costs coming on to replace that year. So I think when we look at 2025, we're going to be looking at a much bigger discount for you than just that 7%. So good place today, but I think an even better place coming on down the road.
Thank
Do you anticipate a group in 2025?
Well, if there are enough townships, the problem we had this year was that there weren't enough discount rated townships that we could pool together to provide a group rating. A lot of townships have gotten into this group retro program and they like the larger rebates that they're getting in that session. But every year we do look at that to see if we have enough payroll to stabilize a group and form it. And certainly you'll be one that would help it out in 2025 if that's the case.
Okay, very good. So with that, board, you should have in your packet information that shows that the actual fee is $3,970 for the renewal for 2024, and also information on the specific amounts and the savings. Are there any questions that you may have of Bruce?
Question for you, Trish. I mean, it's just purely just for those that might be listening in, information basis. So what does Sedgwick do for us that we could not do for ourselves?
Well, by working with Bruce, we are able to enroll in this discount program. We would not be able to do that on our own. So we would be paying. So right now, the estimated premium is $123,659. We'd be paying all of that without the group discount. So we're getting a $23,000 discount right off the top. The fee that we have is, what I say, $3,600 and some change.
Right.
So we're still going to be seeing, roughly a $19,000 savings by enrolling in this group.
Okay. And so OTA or OTARMA neither have their own group that we could participate in, where this is a custom group.
This is the OTA group.
Yeah, this is what is for OTA. OTA was sponsoring another group, if you recall, and this was about 5 years ago, I think. Does that sound right, Bruce? And
That's what I recall.
Yeah, and they were sending us, it was the information, the premiums were going to be like $10,000 to $15,000. It was incredibly high compared to this.
Okay.
And so, but as far as I know, this is the township group that we are eligible for.
Okay.
And it does assist us with, that's any money that we can get back is saving her tax dollars.
Sure.
So-
Absolutely. no problem. Just, and there was nothing against Sedgwick or anything like that. It was just purely for informational purposes.
Right,
So, okay.
right.
I'll make a motion to approve the township's 2024 group retrospective rating enrollment with Sedgwick in the amount of $3,970 and authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Trish, you were going to say something? Now you've already got the sale, so know when to stop talking.
Right?
I was
I was
just,
gonna say thank you.
Okay. All right. Now, if you had something else to add, by all means do.
no, Bruce, I'll get the paperwork to you tomorrow.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks, Trish.
Appreciate it.
Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Thank you, board. Move on to our finance department. We have a purchase request for cemetery software. I'd like to introduce our finance director, Mrs. Molden, who will present this.
Okay. We are in need of cemetery software. Our cemetery software we currently have is a proprietary software from a company we've been using for quite a long time. And recently, the beginning of the year, from like last fall through early spring, they were actually down, and we had to go to our cards to look up cemetery information. They're actually, I guess they have a person that's going to take over their operation. So they're going to go from a 2-person operation to a 1-person operation. So it's
That's the
probably going to
company
get a
we're
little
with
worse.
now. Yeah. Okay.
So we need to move. We looked at 4 software vendors. We got the best response and the best information from Web Cemeteries. They completed a demonstration with us live. They answered all of our questions. They had good references, and their annual fees are really good. The one bad thing about them, the conversion fees are almost $14,000 with a 15% contingency. Now, they did say they hardly ever use that contingency, but I did ask for it in the request just in case. Pontum was our second place runner-up. They did a demonstration, but they told us the data we gave them wouldn't allow them to connect the grave to the owner. So Web Cemeteries didn't have a problem with the data. They actually helped us pull the data off current cemetery software. So we didn't understand why Pontum had that problem, so that made us feel really insecure about them. And their implementation fees were actually higher than Web Cemeteries. CIMS did not reply for, I emailed the guy twice, and I think I called once, and we did not get a response until we had already made our decision to buy Web Cemeteries, and it had been about a month. And then Plotbox, they basically quoted us an annual maintenance fee of $8,000 per year. We currently pay $500, so we weren't gonna jump up to $8,000. The implementation cost does include 8 hours of training for all of our staff. And if somebody would leave, like if our main cemetery person would leave, we wanted somebody else trained, that training would be free. The references we got, they talked about their customer service was excellent. They got really raving reviews from the references we checked with. Do you have anything to add?
Question for you on the recurring cost, the 1668. Is there a multi-year agreement there in place, or is it?
Yes, it's 3 years.
Okay, and it's flat, that rate for the next 3 years?
Yes.
Okay.
And
then
she
did-
said when it goes up, it doesn't go up very much at all. She
Okay.
said they don't have huge price increases.
Okay. Something to keep in mind and just think of in future contracts like this is to negotiate a cap on what it may go up
Okay.
at the end of that period. It's common in the private sector to do that. And
Okay.
to say not to exceed a 5% or whatever
Okay.
amount, so that you can at least, you can then think ahead that they're not going to double it in 3 years
Sure.
or something
Okay.
of that nature. So it just gives you a little protection. And then the only other question I had is, do we own the data at the end of the
We
day?
do not own the data.
Okay,
They have the data, and if we would change software providers, we'd have to pay them $1,000 for an offboarding fee.
okay. And that's in writing? That they'll
It's in the
provide it for
contract.
1,000? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And so the purchase request is not to exceed 18,000, which includes the onboarding and the essentially conversion fee and
Right,
everything there,
and it
and your first year's
includes the first
premium.
year of annual
Yeah.
fees, yes.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve purchase request 23-FIN-0048 to Webb Cemeteries in an amount not to exceed $18,000 and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board. Move on to public service. We do have a purchase request for a service truck, and our Deputy Public Service Director, Mr. John Schroeder, is here to present that.
Good evening, Board. This has been a long project for this truck. So this purchase is for a 2024 Dodge Ram 5500 cabin chassis. This project started 2 to 3 years ago for a service truck for the maintenance department. We intended to put this as part of our lease agreement with Enterprise, and we had a truck on order. It stayed on order for I think about a year and a half, and then it suddenly disappeared. So since then, we met with Enterprise again, and we were trying to find another dealer that had one. And again, that order was placed, but never got moved to being built. So we finally we have equipment on the ground in Columbus that's for our truck, and it's been sitting there for 2 years. So we got to a point where we need to make a move one way or the other. So I did some research. I could not find a Ford truck anywhere. Every place I called, it wasn't there. They already sold it, or it wasn't being built. And we finally found this chassis at Key Chrysler here in Xenia, which fits what we need to do. There are some minor modifications as far as bracketry between a Ford chassis to a Dodge chassis, but minuscule in the large scheme of things. This project has actually held us up. We've had to actually spend some extra money because of the equipment that's on this truck. We couldn't use to do some of the repairs on some fire trucks that we just finished up. So there has been an economic impact as far as we've spent extra money that had we had this truck, we would not have had to do that. With Ford, I don't know where that takes us. That whole process is still up in the air. We've not gotten any definitive answers on when they're going to start having chassis available for anybody. The last I heard from Valley Ford, which is who does the state bid pricing, it's still the same thing. You can place an order, but there's no guarantee that it's going to get scheduled to get built. So we're really at kind of a crossroads. We have equipment sitting in Columbus that's been there for 2 years. Right now we can get the chassis, we can move forward. If we choose to try to stay with a Ford, again, that equipment could still be sitting for, I don't know how long it could be sitting there for. It's just, it's up there sitting, not being utilized for the township in general. Do you guys have any other questions on that or information you need?
Couple of questions I have is on the vehicle itself that you're looking to purchase. So how long is the warranty, and what's the cost of an extended warranty?
The initial warranty is 3 years, 36,000 miles. We have pricing for extended warranty. I took it out. I did the math. He's averaging about 10,000 miles, almost 11,000 miles a year.
Okay.
So we can do. There's a 5-year 100,000 mile for $3,730, and there's a 7-year 100,000 miles for $44,195. It's my recommendation to go with the 7-year 100,000. It's a difference of $465, which in my mind, the 7 years will take that vehicle probably to the end of its service life. So essentially that vehicle would stay under warranty. And then hopefully in that 7 years, we get the lease program figured out to a better situation for us. But that would be my recommendation, is to take it to the 7-year 100,000 miles.
And that covers powertrain, transmission, and
Right.
is it bumper to bumper?
Yeah, there is
Some
it's
limitations.
engine, transmission, driveline, steering. I mean, essentially the entire truck.
Everything gets
The only
money.
downside to the warranty is it's $100 deductible. But in the scheme of things, I mean, if you have one big repair, that $100 is inconsequential to the overall.
Our internal cost has got to be close to $100 just to look at it.
Right.
Okay. And second thing is the equipment that's been sitting, you said for 18 months or however long, is it out of warranty already, or is it in,
No, so for
is
what,
it not, quote,
and
in
this-
service?
Right. This is kind of a little bit of a. It's not out of warranty. What essentially has happened is we own some small equipment that attaches to the body. Buckeye still owns the body and the crane. So the downside of that is we may see a price increase for the. I mean, they've been storing it for a year and a half, so we may have to revisit another aspect of this truck once we get there. But owning the chassis at this point puts us in a better spot to look at that. Right now, it's a moving target. If we buy the equipment right now, we don't have a chassis. We struggle to get a chassis. If we don't get the chassis, then so we've been back and forth. But I think it still stays under warranty. But we may see a price increase just because of the fact that they own the body, the crane, and some of the other.
I just didn't know if you took ownership or if it was still not put in
Now
service.
so that stuff we don't technically own. We have a PO open,
Okay, good.
but they still own that equipment. We have not taken ownership of that. The stuff that we have taken ownership is, like I said, some of the lights that mount to the box, some computer mounting items inside the cab, stuff like that. We don't own any, I would say, substantial pieces of the equipment at this point.
Okay. And so then the Ford chassis, you're leaving on order at this time?
Ford chassis at this point, I think we're just gonna eliminate that at this point because our fear is, I mean, at this point, I don't need the second. This is a unique chassis. This is a 550.
That's where I was headed, is do you need
Right.
two of them if they happen to come
Right,
along?
we're gonna, so if this approves tonight, I will notify Enterprise tomorrow that we no longer need that chassis. If it was a chassis of some of the other staff vehicles, I would consider leaving that on order at that point, but again, it's hit or miss on Ford chassis at this point.
Okay. And so the ask with the 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty would be $74,500 plus $4,195.
Right, it would take, so we would need to amend the purchase order to, I believe it's $78,695.
That's correct.
Okay.
So I guess
All
as
the
you
questions.
present that, we just need to.
That's all the questions I had, so I'll let you go.
In comparison to the four that you had on order in this vehicle, they are essentially very similar vehicles, and it will still do the job that you want it to do.
Yes,
or-
they're very similar. I had the mechanics that are going to operate this truck go through that to make sure that it did fit their need and what we're doing. And they came back. There are some minor things that are different, but they're not anything that's going to upset the operation of the vehicle. So they're happy with. I think at this point they're also happy just to try to get the chassis and get moving with a project that's been in the works for almost 3 years.
And budget-wise, how did this price for the chassis compare to the Ford?
It's close. It's a little bit more, obviously, because Ford was, you have some state bid options, but to compare this chassis with anybody else is very difficult because nobody has them. It's
Okay.
it's very difficult to find somebody that has the chassis that can bid it out.
But yeah, there's no sense in paying less for something you can't get. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve purchase request 23-PSD-0105 to Key Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram for one 2024 5500 crew cab chassis 4x4 in an amount of $74,500 for the chassis plus $4,195 for a 7-year 100,000-mile warranty for a total of $78,695, and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second,
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Mrs. Dean?
yes,
Thank you, board.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board. Moving on to our fire department, we do have a purchase request for job search, and I do see Division Chief Heister here, I believe, to answer any questions.
The chief should be online. He's not. But I can answer any questions, yes.
And Chief Vanderboss is also here to answer any questions as well.
Yeah, I'm online, so I can answer as well. The one point I'll bring up is we did not do any job shirt replacement this past year, so in 2022. So I believe it's been a full 2 years since we've done any job shirt purchasing. And this will add a second job shirt. Some of the guys' shirts are getting pretty worn. It's probably the most commonly worn outerwear garment that the crews have, and so a lot of them are starting to show their age. So this will give them a second one that looks good, and then a backup if this one were to get soiled or damaged or something like that, in order to keep them looking good while they're out on the job.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve purchase request 23-FIRE-0275 to Phoenix Safety Outfitters for 132 job shirts in the amount of $13,813.35, and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Thank you, board. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll get those in before it gets cold.
Great.
Thank you, board. That's all I have this evening.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Legal advisor, Ms. Frick.
Nothing today.
Thank you. Fiscal officer, Mr. Zaharia.
Nothing for tonight?
Thank you. All right. Meetings, MVRPC, Ms. Wallace is not here. Technical Advisory Committee. Thank you. Regional Planning.
Skip the sheriff's office. Did we skip the sheriff's office?
At the beginning of the meeting, there was no report.
No report. Okay, good to see you.
It's like, you want to back up?
This just quivered for a moment. Just a moment.
No report.
Thank you. Health Department, the next meeting is the first Thursday in August. School Superintendent, City Manager.
Meeting this coming Wednesday, so no report as of today.
Thank you. Wright Patterson Air Force Base Restoration, Greene County Waste and Water.
No report.
Thank you. And Township Association, again, Ms. Wallace is not here. Investment Oversight.
Nothing other than just a reminder to the fiscal officer. It looks like the potential of one additional rate increase coming, so might look at how our portfolio is balanced relative to anything that would be on the lowest end, because the opportunity would be in the near future, at least in the next few months, to be able to pick up most likely the highest percentage we'll have in the next 2 to 3 years on bonds.
I've already talked to Mr. Sumner about some of that. We do have some things coming due, so, yes, you're right, Mr. Kratz, the feds are looking at one more increase, but potentially a decrease first quarter of 2024.
Right, just in time for election season.
Yep.
All right. Anything else to come before the board?
No.
All right. I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.